Shalom, all praise to Yahweh Shemel Shah, double honor to the Apostle JMS. This is now Allah coming next another video. In this video, I'm going to be focusing on the book of 2 Timothy 2 and 9. I'm going to get right to it. It says, "Wherein I suffer trouble as an evildoer, even unto bonds." Bonds meaning chains. Chains, being bound. Because the Apostle Paul made mention that he was put in prison. Matter of fact, let's get some scriptures on that real quick. I'm going to go right to the point. This is 2 Corinthians 11:23. This is the Apostle Paul speaking. "Are the ministers of Yahweh Shah? I speak as a fool. I am more, and labor is more abundant." So, yeah, gave great labor, and stripes above measure, because he was whipped, he was beaten, and prisons more frequent, and deaths oft, because the Apostle Paul actually died before. Oft means like often. In prisons more frequently, so the Apostle Paul was frequently in prison. Okay, now let's go back to that scripture. So the Apostle Paul said, "Wherein I suffer trouble as an evildoer, even unto bonds," being chained, being bound, being put in prison. But he was suffering as an evildoer because people looked at the Apostle Paul as if he was wicked. As if he was wicked for telling the Jews that they had to believe in Yahweh Shah now. That they're not justified by the works of the law. They are no longer justified. They are not justified by the law of Moses. Rather, they're justified in faith in Yahweh Shah. And the Jews couldn't receive it, so they came up against him. "Therefore I endure all things," "wherein I suffer trouble as an evildoer, even unto bonds." So the teaching of the word caused the Apostle Paul to be put in prison. It says, "But the word of the Most High is not bound." Right. The word of the Most High is not bound. Though you can bound man, you can put chains on man in order to restrict his movement, to restrain him. You cannot put chains on his word in order to restrict the word, in order to prevent the word from being taught. It can't happen. The word of the Most High is not bound. Let's look at that word bound. Dale.
Strong's G 1210.
Deo. It says to bind, tie, fasten. Metaphorically, it says Satan is said to bind a woman bent together by means of a demon as his messenger, taking possession of the woman and preventing her from standing upright. To bind, put an obligation of the law, duty, etc. To be bound to one, a wife, a husband. To force, prohibit, declare to be illicit. And right here, letter A, it says to bind, fasten with chains, to throw into chains. So you can't bind this word, or this word cannot be bound. This word cannot be restricted. There's nothing that you could say or do in order to stop the word. The word is a spiritual juggernaut. Once it's in motion, it can't be stopped. So the Apostle Paul is saying that right there. Though he suffered as an evildoer, even unto bonds. He suffered as an evildoer, even unto being put in prison. But the word of the Most High is not bound. The word of the Most High is not stagnant. It's like living water. It continuously moves. Let's go to the scripture. This is the book of Acts chapter 5 verse. I'll start from verse 12. This is after the death of I believe this is Ananias and Sapphira. Yeah, Ananias and Sapphira, who was a husband and wife, who were holding back money of the possession that they hold, of the possession that they sold, because they sold a possession or a piece of land, and part of the price that they got for that land they kept unto themselves, whereas the whole price, the whole amount that they sold the land for, was to be given unto those in the ministry. Okay, those doing the work, and they kept back part of that money because of their greed. But I'm going to jump to verse 12. "And by the hands of the apostles were many signs and wonders wrought among the people, and they were all with one accord in Solomon's porch. And the rest durst no man join himself to them, but the people magnified them." And believers were the more added unto the Lord. So more and more believers were added unto the Lord. And the people magnified the apostles. Magnify means to make great. Like you take a magnifying glass and you put the magnifying glass over something that's small, what happens? Whatever that the magnifying glass is above, it's making it look larger, making it look great. Okay? And it said, no man the rest durst, no man to join himself. And the rest durst, no man join himself to them. Meaning, and the rest dared not to join themselves unto Ananias and Sapphira. Meaning none of us dared to hold back anything from the church, for the fear that they'll be put to death like Ananias and Sapphira. And it says, and believers were the more added to the Lord, multitudes of both of men and women. So multitudes of people began to believe, and so much that they brought forth the sick into the streets, and laid them on beds and couches, that at the least the shadow of Peter passing by might overshadow some of them. So people were sick, and they were on the street, and they were placed on beds and couches, so that at least the shadow of the apostle Peter will overcome them, and they will be healed. Okay. There came also a multitude, well, that's basically the point I wanted to get to in verse 14, where it says, and believers were the more added to the Lord, multitudes both of men and women. So there were more and more multitudes added. Why? Because the word is not bound. The word can't be stopped. Let's keep going. This is the book of Philippians 1 and 12. But I would ye should understand, brethren, that the things which happened unto me have fallen out rather unto the furtherance of the gospel. So the Apostle Paul is saying everything that happened to him happened for the furtherance of the gospel. Look at the word furtherance.
Strong's G 4297. Prakape.
Drakape. And it says progress, advancement. See? So everything happened to the Apostle Paul for the furtherance of the gospel, or for the progress of the gospel, or for the advancement of the gospel. It was meant to advance the gospel. See? So when you're teaching this word and all kinds of hell is coming your way, that's making the gospel even bigger. Think about it. People come up to us and claim themselves rebuking us, the prophets. Those videos get thousands of views. Though it may look like we're being shamed, the gospel is being magnified, it's being made great, being made known, it's being advanced, it's progressing. So the Apostle Paul said the things that happened to him for the furtherance of the gospel, the advancement of the progress of the gospel, so that my bonds in Yahushua, his bonds, his chains in Yahushua, because we're bound by Yahushua, we're Yahushua's servants to do this word, so that my bonds in Yahushua manifest in all the palace. That word palace means like governor's hall or headquarters. It means like common hall or headquarters. Okay, let me go to that. I can get deeper into it, but I'm not.
Strong's G 4232.
Praetorion. It says headquarters in the Roman camp, the tent of the commander-in-chief. The palace in which the governor or procurator of a province resided, to which use the Romans were accustomed to appropriate. The palaces already existed and formerly dwelt in by kings or princes. At Jerusalem was a magnificent palace which Herod the Great had built for himself, and which the Roman procurators seem to have occupied whenever they came to Caesarea, to Jerusalem to transact public business. The camp of the Praetorian soldiers established by Tiberius. So it was manifested in all the palace, in all the headquarters of the Roman camp. What was manifested? So that my bonds in Yahushua manifest in all the palace and in other places. So Paul was well known, and many of the brethren in the Lord, waxing confident by my bonds, are much more bold to speak the word without fear. So those people that believed, seeing the Apostle Paul put in prison, guess what? They were confident by the Apostle Paul's bonds that made them stronger, that increased their faith, are much more bold to speak the word without fear. They're more bold to speak the word without fear now. Because they see how the Apostle Paul maintained his dignity and his honor and maintained his faith, even though he was going through all of that. That built them up. That made them believe that, this work has to be done. Because this man is going through all of this hell, and he's still adhering to this truth. So what did that do? That boosted their faith. Okay, all right. Another scripture. 2 Corinthians 3:8. For we can do nothing against the truth but for the truth. Nothing that can be done against this truth. Everything that's done is all for the truth. No matter how negative it may look like or how positive it is. It's all for the furtherance of the gospel. You want to speak ill about the Israelites? Guess what? What's the Israelites are so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans based upon your father's line? You want to paint the Israelites in a negative light? So be it. Go ahead. All it's going to do is make people want to know who these Israelite guys out there. Let me look up them on YouTube. Look at them on Google. And that's making the world get bigger. Everything's for the furtherance of the gospel. For we can do nothing against the truth but for the truth. Nothing can be done against the truth. It can only be done for it. So there's nothing you can do to bound this truth or put the truth in chains. There's only thing that you can do to magnify the truth, to make it progress, for its advancement, for the furtherance of the gospel. Next scripture. As a matter of fact, I'm going to close on that one because the other scripture that I was going to get, I realized I already went into it in the show. Yes, so nothing can be done against the truth. Things can only be done for the truth. Only can be done for the furtherance of the gospel. That's it, man. This word can't be stopped. I remember years ago we had YouTube channels, and they used to shut down all our channels. But guess what? The word still went out there. Eventually they gave up, but we kept pushing because the Spirit of Most High is upon us. It was on us then, it's still on us now. So what I'm going to say is, all praise to Yahweh Shemel Shai, that belongs to the apostles Jim Mess. I hope brother learned something. Shalom.